genes of you and me. We're all made of DNA. We're all made of the same chemical DNA. We're all made of DNA. We're all made of the same chemical.
Hello and welcome to the 12th episode of Discovering New Advances, or DNA, a podcast that keeps you up to date about the scientific world in an easy-to-understand language. So whether you're a student in middle school or a grandparent, you'll easily be able to follow along. I'm Kira, and on this episode, I will give an introduction lesson about the genetic code. The following episodes will either keep you updated on genetic advances in the scientific world, teach more lessons on genetics, or feature a debate about a controversial bioethical issue in our society. So if you're already familiar with the basics of the genetic code, you can skip to the following episodes about news on the genetic advances happening today and how it is affecting our world. For more information, please visit dnapodcast.com or email in at info@dnapodcast.com. So in this lesson, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to learn about the genetic code. The genetic code is the language of cells. It is the instructions for building and maintaining cells. It's the set of rules by which information encoded in genetic material, which can either be DNA or RNA, which is then translated into proteins, which are amino acid sequences. That's pretty much the basic idea. So the genetic information of a cell is stored in DNA, which stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. The DNA is made up of codons, which are 3 nucleotides. Each nucleotide has a base. So you have DNA, which is made of codons, which has nucleotides, 3 of them, and each nucleotide has a base. There are 4 bases. Essentially, these 4 bases, adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine, are the letters of the genetic language, and they're actually known by letters as well, for short. So we have A, G, T, and C. Adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine. So it's important to note that in RNA there is no T. Rather, it is U for uracil. So you have DNA, A, G, T, C, and RNA, you have A, G, U, C. That's the difference there. Uracil is the difference. So where do genes fit in? We've talked about codons, nucleotides, bases, DNA. Where are the genes? So genes are segments of DNA. They have many codons. So each codon encodes for one of the 20 amino acids. So before we talked about how genes turn into proteins, or, they code for proteins. So this is that kind of transition there where, each codon encodes for one of 20 amino acids, and proteins are made of amino acids. So when proteins are being made, the order of the codons are read, and the amino acids that match with that codon are assembled into a protein in the same order as its codon. So if codon codes for amino acid A will be placed kind of to begin this long strand of amino acid, which makes a protein. Important codons to know are AUG, which is where a sequence starts on DNA. There are 3 different codons for it to stop: UAG, UAA, and UGA. So there's 3 different stop codons and 1 start. AUG is the start. The coolest aspect of the genetic code is how universal it is. So picture this. So genes in a jellyfish cell, for example, can be taken out and put in a mouse cell, and it produces the same proteins. So you can do this with any animal, any organism. You take a gene from one, and you put it in another, and the same thing happens to them. The same proteins are produced. So it really sounds like science fiction, but it's actually a very simple experiment many high schoolers conduct in the lab. I was lucky enough to do it a few times back in high school, and it's truly amazing when you think about it that any eukaryotic gene can be taken from an organism, inserted into another, and it will express the same protein. So this just opens up so much for research and how you can use other animals for human research. So, mice are very common to use, and, other organisms, mice definitely the top. So we use mice to see how different things affects them and their proteins, and then we can use that information to make the next step to use things on humans. So how universal the genetic code is truly astonishing, and it's definitely very interesting to see. So I highly encourage you guys to go out and kind of Google a couple different things and get a better idea for it, because in an audio podcast I don't really get to show you too much, but I can certainly talk things up. So to review all of this information, DNA is made up of bases, which is adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. In RNA, thymine is placed with the uracil. And 3 bases together are a codon. Every codon directly matches an amino acid, and proteins are made up of amino acids, so there's a total of 20 amino acids. And the genetic code is highly universal. This means that a gene can be put into an animal, and it will produce the same proteins no matter what animal it's put in. Well, thanks for listening. I hope the lesson helped you out a little bit. You can further your education by visiting dnapodcast.com for more episodes, and this lesson, along with others, not only in audio format, but in a written format with visual aids to help you out a little bit more. There's also a contact form on there for easy access to send in feedback about the shows or any questions you might have. You can email us directly if that's easier for you. That's info@dnapodcast.com. If you're as obsessed with social media as I am, you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, both at /DNApodcast. Subscribing to us on iTunes is a great way to keep up with the show. It will let you know when new episodes are out and automatically download them for you. That way you don't have to keep checking back with the site. So all you have to do is search DNA Podcast and we pop right up. If you have iTunes open, you might as well give us a review. That's the best way to have our podcast viewed by more people, and that way more people can benefit from it, just like yourself. You can find all the links I just mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, and RSS feed on the website, dnapodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and join me next episode to learn and discover new advances in the world of genetics.